Good morning, friends. Welcome to my channel. This etude lesson will be on etude number 13, Lucky 13, by Kreutzer. And it's a wonderful etude, very long etude, quite challenging for the right shoulder, at least my right shoulder. The difficulty of the bowing, and the bowing, of course, is consistent throughout the piece, is the last up bow. If we're looking at measure one, we've got four beats. The second beat, we play up, down, up. That's the hard one, where we play. The beginning is quite easy. That's always worked. But this last one, to make it consistently sound, when you listen to me play it, there's just once in a blue moon, I won't get every note to speak out. And it takes that little bit of extra effort. And of course, on the A and the D string is not so difficult. I think the E is more difficult, the E and the A string, to make them speak. So just be aware of that. That was one of the challenges for me, to try to make everyone, especially as I go through the piece and I'm getting more tired, to concentrate, to make sure that last one. Now, I recorded this in 4 different sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 5 different sections, so I could discuss each one in detail. But of course, it's a whole different thing if you play the whole piece through. Then the endurance really builds up. And at my age, I don't really need that endurance anymore. But for you younger players, it's fine. It's fine to develop that endurance. And you'll notice that as you're playing this through, you'll find ways. There'll be certain measures where you can kind of just draw back and relax your energies and just kind of glide. And then when you have to give more energy, then you've got that energy built up again. It's almost like running, where you'll be running along and maybe I'll hit some fatigue, and you find ways to either just relax a little, it's called biofeedback. You just mentally scale down, and then when you let's say you're running on a level, right? And then you have to go up and you have to give out more energy, and then when you get to the level, you start to relax. Well, the same thing with these kind of long etudes. That there'll be something very, very difficult, and so your energies will go up to deal with that, and then when it gets easier again, then you level it out. Okay, so there's a number of difficult passages. Measure 3 is a challenging one, getting that 4th finger G sharp in there. But you've already got the 3rd finger down, so that's not so hard. And then you have to reevaluate everything when you come to measure 4 to get that octave back there. New difficulty that Mr. Kreutzer gives us in measure 6, we got to shift to 2nd position, so that's not an easy transition right there. And then getting that 3rd finger D, that's a difficult one. I've been just working on recording some Wolfart etudes, which are an intermediate level, as this is much more advanced. Doing these extensions, I was thinking of Wolfart number 30. Where he's practicing extensions from staying in 1st position and extending out. Here's similar situation where we're in measure 8, we're in 2nd position, and we start in actually all the way back to measure 6, we're in 2nd position, and then in measure 8, he has you do extensions out of that for 2 beats and then back to 2nd position. Make note in measure 10, I stay in 2nd position. I don't shift to 3rd position. I don't see any reason. Just stay in 2nd position all the way through 10 and 11. Okay, so I will stop the video here and play the 1st section, then discuss the 2nd section. So here we'll be discussing measures 12 down to 22. So in measure 12, we're back to 1st position. And that's all quite normal stuff, no problem. When we get to measure 15, we have to move that 3rd finger. It's not marked in the music, so if there's any question, we're solidly back in 1st position. You've come out playing in measure 14, we have open 3, 2, 3, and then back to first position, open 3 in measure 15. I found a difficult measure was measure 17, where you have the 2 E's, and then you got to stick that second finger G onto the E string. I found it pulling it back. Of course, we've got the first finger down, so it's positioning the second finger, but to make it clean, I found that I had to rotate my elbow quite a bit. You'll notice on the video when I play it for you. And then in the second half of the measure, getting the third finger in there. To make all these things very, very clean, it takes some practice. Then in measure 19, we do the extensions. You've got to practice the extensions from first position, extending a half step up. It looks kind of easy with my hand because I have pretty long fingers. For some of you, it may be more difficult. Help yourself by bringing your elbow around a little bit. I found measure 17. No, I already covered that. Measure 21. In 21, I stay in first position, so I'm playing 2-4 all the way through there. I found that I understand the theory of moving to second position there, 1-3, doing this complicated passage in second position, but I find it's very effective in first position. So you try it both ways, of course, whichever works best for you. All right, so I will go ahead and play this section for you. So this discussion will be of measures 23 through 33. And this is not a very, very difficult section here. I found some difficulty with measure 26, where you have the open G, and then in the third beat, the second finger to make that clean make it clean across strings. And then the next measure 27. Same challenge, making all these bow changes from the G string to the D string to the open A, and then getting that third finger in the second half of bar 27. So that's challenging. And then going to bar 28, switching to the octave A. He continues to use the extensions through this section, and in measure 32, I stayed in first position. I didn't make the shift up to second position. Try it both ways, see which works better for you. Okay, I'll play the section for you. In this section, I'll be discussing measures 34 down to the beginning of 56. And this is where Kreutzer is starting to roll up his sleeves and saying, okay, now let's really start having some fun here. First of all, we're shifting right there, third position. That's a challenging change right there, because third position with the bridges and everything feels different, especially with this bowing. Suddenly there's more tension in the strings because you're playing higher up, stopping the strings. So that's where I was talking about earlier about having some shoulder issues, about making sure the last 2 notes of each of these patterns, the up bow, make sure it sounds. It's much more difficult. So measure 34 has the shift, and then 36 we got to get that fourth finger B natural in there. At least on my violin, a little bit challenging. I got to work a little harder to get that B natural in there, and then in the 37 get the C natural back to the octave. It feels good, but you still got to make it sound. And then where he's back, it feels so good when we hit measure 39 to get back to first position, and then make sure we get that B flat in tune. And I found in 40. The second half of 40 was very difficult to make sure I would get that third finger D on the A string After, the beginning of the bar is not that difficult. We're playing 4-3, open, open, and then suddenly you've got 4-2, 4-2-3. You got to make that transition to make that clean. So be careful of that. Measure 40 is a very tricky one. I found in 43 going to 44, that was also challenging because we have A natural, C natural, which is, it's not as comfortable when you can stick the third finger way up against the fourth finger. That's nice, but when you got to keep it back, that's a little harder. Okay, and then going ahead, oh yes, and 45, the second half of 45 is a real surprise. We've been doing the extension, so it kind of sets us up to extend our hand, but now we got to extend the D up also, the second finger. He suggests the third finger in the music. Doesn't work for me at all. It's way too tight. So I work my second finger. You'll notice when I play 1, 4, 2, and that works much better than trying to do this. For some reason, the 4-3 shape is, I don't want to do that too much. All right, so then in measure 47, I use in the second half of the bar, I use a fourth finger G sharp, make note of that. In 49, I stay in first position, so I'm playing 2, 4, 3. You could experiment with the shift. I found the shift was, unnecessary. His concept is 48, you're at first position. 49, you're in second position. 50, you're in third position. I found it better for me, stay in first position through 48, 49, make a clean shift to the C in 50. Try it both ways, whatever works for you, it's all good. Okay, and then make note, of course, at 51, the first note, the open D, make that open D. It's not marked properly in the music. Come down to first position all the way through there. And that's good. Yeah, and it's interesting, 53, 54, 55, it seems, oh, no problem, we're home free. But it's so simple. When I was recording it, I had to concentrate, make sure, okay, D sharp first finger. Now move up in measure 454, first finger E. And then in 55, especially because we're going from one line to the next, it's easy to get confused. Suddenly we're going from this chord with the C natural to a chord with the G sharp. So just be aware of these little tricks that Kreutzer plays. It's natural in the music, but it also makes for good violin technique. Okay, I'll go ahead and play this section for you. So this section this is the final section from measure 56 to the end of the Etude. And this is where we're really starting to have all the great stuff, As we're going along here, there's certain difficulties. We're at 58. We've got that, make sure we get that fourth finger G sharp, and then moving up at 59 to the fourth finger A. And then you have to make that big shift to the third position. No help for it. That's one of the most difficult shifts in third position, where you're shifting a major third from A to C sharp. So it's a long way to go, and it's kind of, there's certain difficulties. You got to just practice that C sharp and then get your fifth across. So practice that one, and then as we're going, I found another difficult one was in 62, where we're going to E sharp. When we think mentally, we're thinking, oh, F natural, but it's a challenge. So that's just you practice it individually from third position, D position, to F natural or E sharp, obviously. So that's a good thing to practice. And then as we get to 64, we're back to third position, lots of third position work, back to first position in 66. I have in my music, whenever there's a particularly difficult passage, I put an H. Just as a reminder, so that if I have to do a quick review of a concerto or a sonata or something, I have the H's, and I have only a little time, I'll just quickly review the H sections. So I have H marked from 67 through 70, basically from 67 to 73, as a particularly difficult. And when you hear me play it, you'll hear what we're dealing with. This is all fine. Another wonderful thing about these etudes, they're advanced etudes, but he's still emphasizing a lot of intermediate, basic things, and lots of first, second, and third position. Most pieces, students avoid second position and fourth position. I was always taught second and fourth are very, very important positions. Not that we play there a lot, but they're transitions. So, Kreutzer here is giving a lot of practice in second position. It's good to get used to reading in second position. So we're moving along down through here. There's various difficulties. All little by little, you just work them all out. I noticed that when I played this, I didn't take as much time on the last measure 86, where this very, we played this whole long etude, and then all of a sudden we have to play to make that turn comes out, and it's marked as a trill. It's marked as a trill with two Nachschlags, and I think of it as a turn with the C sharp at the end. And notice you have to be in half position to play this. You're not going to play this in first position with an open G string. No, you can't play that. You have to play. So that's just a little extra challenge that Kreutzer put in at the very end. You're playing. Then back to half position. Okay? And, there's dots on notes. Dots back in that time didn't necessarily mean you play spiccato. They're just indicating separate. I remember playing a Beethoven, late Beethoven quartet. I was playing first violin, and then we had dots in the music. And I came to realize that this is just an indication of play separate grande tache versus slur legato. All right, so I will go ahead and play for you this section. I hope this discussion has been helpful, just to give you a little bit more insight into what's possible with this Kreutzer etude. It's a very good etude. As I say, multidimensional. If you have any tiredness in your shoulder fatigue, just stop, rest, and let your strength build up. All right, thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.